The marble floors of the Hawthorne mansion gleamed under crystal chandeliers, reflecting wealth Leonard Washington could barely imagine. Guests in designer suits and glittering gowns moved past him like he was part of the furniture. Leonard kept his head down, hands firm on the mop. That was how you survived places like this. Stay quiet, stay invisible. Careful, a man snapped as Leonard passed. These floors are worth more than you. A few people laughed. Leonard nodded and kept working. He'd learned long ago that dignity didn't come from arguing. It came from endurance. But tonight, something was different. Earlier, Leonard had been sent to clean the West Wing hallway. It was quiet there, lined with framed photos of the Hawthorne family, generations of wealth staring proudly from the walls. Then Leonard froze. One photograph stopped his breath completely. The woman in the frame had the same warm brown eyes, the same gentle smile, the same crescent-shaped birthmark just below her collarbone. It was Danielle, his wife. Danielle, who had died 2 years ago. Leonard stepped closer, heart pounding. Beneath the photo was a nameplate. Elena Hawthorne, 1991 to 2018. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone. His lock screen showed Danielle laughing at the beach, sunlight on her face. Leonard held the phone next to the photograph. Identical. His knees nearly buckled. All night, the image burned into his mind. When the gala slowed and guests drifted away, Leonard pushed his cleaning cart toward the study. The door was open. Inside stood Elliot Hawthorne himself, the billionaire owner of the mansion. He was staring at a wall of photos, including the same woman. Leonard felt fear rise in his chest. But something stronger pushed him forward. "Sir," he said quietly. Elliot turned, annoyed. "What is it?" Leonard swallowed hard and pointed to the photo. "Why?" he asked, voice shaking. "Is my wife's photo in your mansion?" The color drained from Elliot Hawthorne's face. His glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. "What did you say?" Elliot whispered. Leonard stood taller than he ever had before. "That woman was my wife, Danielle Washington, and I need to know why she's here under another name." Silence filled the room. Elliot's eyes glistened as he looked back at the photograph. His voice broke. "Because," he said, barely audible, "she was never supposed to be found." Leonard didn't sleep that night. The image of Elliot Hawthorne's shaken face replayed over and over in his mind. Billionaires didn't drop glasses. They didn't whisper in fear. And they definitely didn't look at janitors like ghosts from the past. By morning, Leonard knew one thing for certain. Danielle had lived a life she never told him about. At dawn, Leonard sat alone in his small apartment, staring at the urn on his dresser. Danielle's ashes rested beside a framed photo from their wedding day. She was smiling then, free, warm, unburdened. If she'd been hiding something, she'd carried it quietly, the way she carried pain, the way she carried love. "I wish you'd told me," Leonard whispered. Later that afternoon, Leonard returned to the mansion for his shift. Whispers followed him now. Staff looked at him differently. Word traveled fast in places built on secrets. Elliot Hawthorne summoned him just before sunset. The study felt colder this time. "You shouldn't have asked that question," Elliot said, his back turned. Leonard stood firm. "I shouldn't have had to." Elliot exhaled slowly. "Her name wasn't Danielle," he said. "Not originally." Leonard's chest tightened. "She was born Elena Hawthorne," Elliot continued. "My niece." Leonard staggered back a step. "That's impossible." "She disappeared 20 years ago," Elliot said. "Legally declared dead. New identity. New records. Paid for by my brother." "Why?" Leonard demanded. "Why erase her?" Elliot finally turned. His eyes were red. "Because she fell in love with the wrong man. Because she refused to live the life we chose for her. Because powerful families don't tolerate embarrassment." Leonard's fists clenched. "So you stole her life." Elliot didn't argue. "She ran," Elliot said quietly. "Changed her name. Cut ties. We thought she'd come back. When she didn't, we let her disappear." Leonard felt rage rise, but also something colder. "She married me," Leonard said. "She lived paycheck to paycheck. She died without health care that could have saved her." Elliot flinched. "There's more," he said. "And people who don't want it uncovered." Leonard met his gaze. "I'm not afraid anymore." Elliot hesitated, then nodded. "Then neither am I." As Leonard left the mansion, he realized something terrifying. Danielle hadn't just escaped a family. She'd escaped an empire. And empires didn't forgive people who exposed the truth. Leonard stopped going home. Not because he was afraid, but because fear had already found him. 2 days after his meeting with Elliot Hawthorne, Leonard returned to his apartment to find the door cracked open. The lock was broken. Inside, drawers were pulled out, papers scattered across the floor. Nothing valuable was missing, except one thing: Danielle's urn. Leonard dropped to his knees. They weren't robbing him. They were warning him. His phone rang. Unknown number. "Mr. Washington," a smooth voice said. "You should have stayed in your lane." Leonard recognized it immediately. Marcus Hawthorne, Elliot's younger brother. The man whose name appeared on half the foundation documents Leonard had quietly copied. "You took my wife's remains," Leonard said, his voice shaking with fury. "Bring her back." A soft laugh. "Your wife stopped being yours the moment she ran. You're digging into history that doesn't belong to you." "She belonged to herself," Leonard snapped. Silence. Then Marcus spoke again, colder. "Drop this, or you'll lose more than ashes." The line went dead. Leonard drove straight to Elliot's estate. Elliot listened in horror as Leonard explained everything. "This was never my intention," Elliot said. "Marcus always handled the messes. I convinced myself I didn't need to ask how." Leonard stared at him. "Then fix it." Elliot nodded slowly. "There are records. Hidden ones. My brother paid to destroy most of them, but not all. They went underground, to the estate's private archive. Old files. Locked cabinets. Years of secrets." Leonard found it in a faded folder. Identity transfer authorization. Danielle's fingerprints. Her birthmark noted in medical detail. A payoff ledger. And one final document. A handwritten letter. "If you're reading this, it means I couldn't stay hidden anymore. I didn't leave because I didn't love you. I left because loving you meant I'd finally be free. Please don't come looking for me. If they find you, they'll hurt you. I'm choosing peace, even if it costs me everything." Leonard's vision blurred. "She loved you," Elliot said quietly. "She just didn't trust us." Footsteps echoed above them. Marcus Hawthorne stood at the top of the stairs, flanked by security. "I told you to stop," Marcus said. "Now you're stealing documents." Leonard held up the letter. "You stole her life." Marcus smiled thinly. "I preserved the family." Elliot stepped forward. "You're done." Marcus laughed. "You think anyone will believe a janitor over us?" Leonard met his gaze, steady and unafraid. "They will," he said, "because I have nothing left to lose." Leonard became the story they never prepared for. By morning, copies of the documents were no longer just in his hands. Elliot had sent them, quietly, carefully, to a journalist he trusted, a woman known for destroying powerful men with facts instead of noise. Leonard didn't want fame. He wanted truth. And truth, once released, didn't ask permission. The headline dropped at noon. "Billionaire family hid woman's identity for 20 years. Janitor holds the proof." Phones exploded. News vans lined the street outside Leonard's building. Social media tore itself apart. People weren't just angry, they were personal. A woman erased. A life rewritten. A man mocked as just a janitor, who turned out to be the keeper of a secret empire. Marcus Hawthorne went on damage control immediately. Press conferences. Lawyers. Smears. They painted Danielle as unstable. Leonard as opportunistic. Said the documents were forged. Said grief made people imagine things. Leonard didn't respond. He waited. Then the journalist released the final piece. Bank transfers. Medical records. Surveillance footage of Marcus meeting a private firm specializing in identity erasure. And finally, DNA results taken from Danielle's stored medical samples. A match. Elena Hawthorne and Danielle Washington were the same woman. The backlash was instant. Sponsors pulled out. Board members resigned. Protesters gathered outside Hawthorne properties holding signs that read, "You don't own people." Marcus snapped. That night, Leonard was followed. A black SUV crept behind him as he walked home from the subway. Footsteps closed in. A hand grabbed his shoulder. "Do you know how many lives you're destroying?" Marcus hissed, stepping from the shadows. "You think you're a hero?" Leonard turned slowly. "No," he said. "I'm a husband." Police sirens cut through the night. Marcus backed away, but it was too late. Witnesses had recorded everything. The threat, the confession, the arrogance. He was arrested on the spot. By morning, Elliot Hawthorne resigned publicly. "I failed," he said on camera. "I valued reputation over humanity." Leonard watched from his couch, Danielle's photo beside him. For the first time, the world wasn't looking past him. They were listening. The courtroom was packed. Cameras lined the walls. Reporters whispered. Every seat was filled with people who once would have walked past Leonard Washington without a second glance. Now they waited on his every word. Marcus Hawthorne sat at the defense table, expensive suit wrinkled, confidence gone. The man who once threatened Leonard in the shadows now avoided his eyes completely. Leonard took the stand. No mop, no uniform, just a simple suit and a calm, steady voice. "I didn't come here for revenge," Leonard began. "I came here because my wife deserved the truth." The prosecutor walked the jury through the evidence: identity erasure contracts, financial transfers, DNA confirmation, witness testimony. Each document landed like a hammer. Marcus's lawyer tried to shift blame. "Mr. Washington is emotional. Grief can distort perception." Leonard leaned forward. "Grief didn't fake documents. Power did." The courtroom went silent. Then came the moment no one expected. Elliot Hawthorne was called to testify. The billionaire walked slowly, visibly aged. When he spoke, his voice shook. "My family erased Elena because we believed status mattered more than choice," he said. "We were wrong." Gasps rippled through the room. He turned toward Leonard. "Your wife should have inherited a third of our estate. I made sure that oversight is corrected." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Corrected how?" Elliot swallowed. "The trust was transferred last week. In Danielle Washington's name. Mr. Leonard Washington is the sole executor." The room erupted. The janitor everyone mocked now controlled assets worth billions, money that had been denied to the woman he loved. Leonard didn't smile. He simply nodded. The verdict came swiftly. Guilty. Marcus Hawthorne was sentenced for fraud, coercion, and identity manipulation. Decades in prison. No appeal. Outside the courthouse, microphones were shoved toward Leonard. "Are you rich now?" someone yelled. Leonard looked straight into the camera. "I was rich when my wife loved me," he said. "This just gives her justice." That night, Leonard returned to his apartment for the last time. He packed lightly, took Danielle's photo, her ashes. The next chapter wasn't about wealth. It was about honoring her life. The mansion was quiet now. No guards at the gate. No gala lights. No laughter echoing through marble halls. Leonard Washington stood alone in the West Wing, facing the same photograph that started everything. Danielle, Elena, his wife. Her smile hadn't changed. Only the world around it had. He didn't take the mansion. He donated it. Within 6 months, the Hawthorne estate became the Danielle Washington Center for Justice and Healing, a place for legal aid, adoption reform, domestic escape services, and scholarships for people erased by power and prejudice. Leonard kept a small office on the ground floor. Simple desk, 2 chairs, a framed wedding photo. That was all he needed. One afternoon, a young woman knocked on his open door. Nervous, hopeful. "I was adopted," she said softly. "They told me my records were sealed forever. But then I heard about you." Leonard smiled gently. "Sit down. Let's find your story." Across the city, and soon the country, similar conversations were happening. Files reopened. Families reunited. Names restored. Danielle's story wasn't just justice. It was a spark. Elliot Hawthorne watched it all from a distance. He never asked for forgiveness again. Instead, he funded reform quietly, anonymously. Some debts didn't need public repayment. 1 year later, Leonard stood at the ocean during sunset. The same beach where Danielle once laughed as waves chased her feet. He opened the urn gently. "You mattered," he whispered. "More than they ever knew." The wind carried her ashes into the sky. Leonard didn't cry. He felt peace. Because Danielle was no longer hidden. No longer erased. No longer silent. She was remembered. As a woman who chose love over luxury. Freedom over fear. Truth over comfort. And as the reason a janitor reminded the world of something powerful. Respect isn't given by status. Truth doesn't care about wealth. And justice always finds its way back. Leonard turned and walked away from the shore, not as a billionaire, not as a janitor, but as a man who kept his promise.